All right, everybody. This is episode 2 of the Netflix and Drill podcast. We've got another awesome guest. This time, Mr. Patrick Ivey. So, Pat, I know you from school. We have a fairly, long history. Went to school together, played footy, all this type of thing. But I always try to get people to do a fairly generic kind of introduction. So, for the people that don't know, introduce Mr. Ivey. What do you do now? You can talk a little bit about your, childhood, your upbringing, your life, that type of thing, and then we'll get a little bit more into detail about some of the stuff you're doing now.
Sure. So, 27 years young.
Yeah.
Have grown up in Brisbane and did 4 years at all schools, actually, and then went to Toowoomba Grammar as well with you.
Yeah.
So 4 years at Belmont State School, 4 years at Villanova College, Coorparoo, 4 years at Toowoomba Grammar. Very privileged to sort of come back to Brizzy straight away and pick up with all those old connections that I had in Brisbane, because I'd imagine if I went straight from Toowoomba for 17 years into a new city, wouldn't have been as easy as how I had it. It was more of a return.
Yeah.
So I knew Brisbane really well. I knew a lot of people there, so I already had a network. And I'm lucky enough now to have 2 networks, one in Toowoomba and one in Brisbane. In my business, that's really important because more people I know, more prospects, could eventually turn into more business for me, which seems to have happened so far. So straight out of school, studied property economics, QUT, worked behind a bar in Hospo. I was at a golf club for a few years, met a few influential people, and played a little bit of footy. I do miss my rugby, but Saturdays is now work day for me, so it's game day, but in a different industry, which is real estate.
Yeah.
So in real estate now, and it's my 7th year, same company. I don't think the grass is greener. I've always believed in loyalty in that regard. But business is swell, and I've got a great team around me now.
Awesome. This is a pretty, a diverse topic, but the real estate market and the economy in general is getting a little tougher. The inflation's increasing. The cost of living is increasing, but the wages aren't. This is something that, I just talk with normal people. I remember going on a date sometimes and talk about it. And, you got a house, 27, whatever. A lot of people are really worried about that area of kind of life. Is it really that difficult for people to get into the property market? We're just going to kind of jump straight into some difficult questions or whatever, but there's a lot of concern around people, just getting places, getting a house, even rentals now, increasingly more difficult because of COVID and everyone kind of moving interstate and that type of thing. Is it as difficult as everyone says, or is it just a little bit of kind of ill discipline or maybe just some misguided kind of behaviours? What do you think?
I think it's not as difficult as people do make it out to be. Yes, property is very expensive, but you really needed to save early and earn early. Once you're in, you've got skin in the game, you've got one, that'll go up in value. Then you've got equity when that goes up in value to roll it into a second. Yeah. So the first one's the hardest. The next 2, 3, they're pretty straightforward, because property does go up, generally speaking. Yeah. It goes up a lot more than stocks, goes up a lot more than, in my opinion, Bitcoin. I don't know about the Bitcoin markets though, but I know that they come back just as much as they go up. Whereas property, it's talked about months in advance before it comes back at all. Take a look at what's just happened. 3rd cash rate hike. We're now at 1.35% cash rate. Now,
what does that mean for the people that kind of uncertain on that?
Years gone by, it sat at 0.1 or 0.15 for a very long time. That's very cheap money that you're borrowing from the banks, because the cash rate in Australia is 0.1. Your banks are generally charging that onto the customer at 1.99 or early 2% interest rates.
Okay.
On $1 million mortgage, that's not a great deal. Whereas now, cash rate 1.35, interest rates will now jump to 3s and 4%. That's almost double what we were paying. So to now get a home loan, it's a little bit trickier than what it was a few years ago when I was buying my first home in 2018. I'm so lucky I did, because homes back in 2018, they did a little bit to 2019, but when 2020 hit, it's almost like everyone shat the bed. The market just stopped for a month or two. I remember sitting in my apartment during that first month or two of COVID, going, I was very concerned about the market moving forward and my job. And, all these small industry jobs around us, hospitality just stopped for 2 months. You can remember it too, in your business. So at that time, there were smart people that bought. Fortune favors the bold. You just buy and make it work. And I've always been told best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. Because, hey, it has to only go one way. It'll come back every now and then, but over a 10-year, if we zoom out of anything, you zoom out on the graph.
Increasing in value,
Exponential.
Yeah.
First one's the hardest.
Yeah. So what are some tips, maybe, 2-3 tips or 5 tips that you can give people to actually put together enough to, get involved as early as possible? The other, because there's other options too, there's different types of loan, schemes and things available. What's the easiest and best options that people can kind of get into to actually get into the property market?
Save money. Don't rely on the bank of mum and dad. However, there is an opportunity for them to go guarantor if you're lucky. Even if you got them on guarantor for 1 year, which is a security to your home loan, right? They sort of say to the bank, well, I own a property here, and I'm trying to help my son out, so you can use my property as a security for my son or daughter to buy their first home. But I want to be released in a year. So that happens quite often when I'm selling to a young couple or a young professional. They'll often use mum and dad as guarantor. Does that help with a smaller deposit amount, or what does that actually help with? It helps them save LMI, which is lender's mortgage insurance, which is still a significant amount of money. If you've got a home loan, right, of $1 million, and you're going to tip in, zero, and you're going to borrow the whole $1 million, most banks would have let that happen, in the last year or two, but now they're probably asking for 5 or 10% up front. So that's $100K, right? So in the $100K, well, then you've got lender's mortgage insurance. Sometimes if you can't front the 5 or 10%. So if you wanted to borrow the whole $1 million and you didn't have a guarantor, then you'd be up for more costs. But banks want to see deposits and they want to see security. And they'll, look after you, so to speak, if you've got that to offer. Because otherwise it's so risky for them. So they will charge you more penalties, more fees, etc. And with the guarantor, they generally can avoid those fees. Is that what you're saying? Correct. Yeah. So, I recently purchased a property as well and all that type of thing. And from my understanding, what they were generally asking for most of the banks is a minimum of about 10% deposit. There are some schemes available, though, where, you can get a lump sum payment, first home buyer grant, that type of thing. In Queensland, we're even more privileged. You don't have to pay stamp duty on your first home. So I think there are a lot of different options available to actually get into the market. But it probably comes back to a little bit of discipline. You might not be able to go out every weekend for that year, all right, to kind of get that savings behind you. That's exactly right. But I think you just got to go earn more. There's no point watching your pennies. You need to be in the mindset of earn more. It's like you in your business. You don't just... your recovery session. No, you go and train more even after a fight. You'll be training, and there's, that's my mindset with this business is let's not get complacent. Let's try and find other ways to earn more. I had multiple streams of income there for a second because hospitality wasn't paying me enough real estate. I wasn't good enough to go out on my own, so I needed the second job. And I also was doing auctioneering, so a third source of income. But it was I was only earning like 50 grand a year across 3 jobs, so it wasn't like I was killing it. But I learnt work ethic, and I think that our gen has struggled a little bit with work ethic. So they're going, how do I save? No, how do I earn more? That needs to be the headspace. All right, so I think probably people need to reframe how they think about their general approach to life. Then maybe I've talked about this type of stuff with a few people on the Storing podcast with Eduardo as well, and it's generally the people that do well in certain things, they have the type of mindset that you're talking, which is more of a growth mindset. It's not like they don't look to be comfortable. They're always looking to push the boundaries. They're always looking to add extra, add more, find another source of income or find another skill that they can improve on if you're talking about physical training or whatever. So I think that's a really important point to note.
I don't know how people develop that though. Like I've talked about this a bunch of times too. Is like, I think if you could figure out what made people conscious of this stuff and allowed them to access this like understanding in their brain, you'd be very wealthy as well, because it's what everyone's looking for. And I think for the most part, a lot of the stuff you're talking about, you can only really kind of come to the realization of through experience. Like you're talking about, you know, busting your ass working, you know, doing hospitality, and busting your ass working and doing real estate, and busting your ass doing auctioneering, and, you know, starting from the bottom and understanding there's a hierarchy in the world, and you need to work your way up in position so that you can improve in all areas of your life, and that's going to help with the income stuff as well. But I don't like, also like on that point, is it wasn't something that you didn't focus on the finances initially though, did you? You were just focusing on achieving your goals. Does that make
Correct.
sense? Yeah.
It wasn't even goal setting for me. It was, how can I make an impact on people's life, customers?
Yeah.
Because to this day, right, from that Pacific Golf Club that I used to work at back in 2012 when I just left Toowoomba, that was my first job. I still have relationships with those golfers, for example, that send me business
The patrons.
in 2022.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, they could have forgotten about me as well, yeah? But no, built great relationships with them. I was memorable. I don't know. I've always tried to make an impact where I go, and impact makes memory, right?
Yeah.
You know, people tell stories about you, and you know, worked hard, worked late, did this, did that. Good sense of humour is important. You know, not taking life so seriously, being a bit positive,
Charismatic.
amidst a world of negativity.
Yeah.
You know, we like to take our job very seriously when we're in it, but do it with a little bit of a sense of humour too.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not a heart surgeon,
No.
but, you know, we are top performing in our field, but no one gives a shit about a real estate agent's awards, you know what I mean? So we want to be the best and then make an impact so our customers rate us 5 stars each time and, you know, have raving fans. That's what we often talk about. So from my little jobs back in the day, I have built, again, network, amplified my network, because I didn't really half-ass anything. You know, I dabbled in real estate. Oh, it wasn't for me. Even at the beginning, it probably wasn't for me, but I forged my own path as well. I made it work for me. And now we have dominant market share and people call us to list and sell homes. That's the goal of anyone in my industry. And I think that's really important. But that's been done through heaps and heaps of rejection and getting uncomfortable early and, you know, putting everything on the line, your reputation on the line. I remember when I first put up a video saying, hey guys, I'm in real estate now. Yeah, a couple of people got behind me, but deep down, I know a lot of people wanted to see me fail because that's just Australia, right? It's the tall poppy syndrome, which is a shame because you go to America. I haven't been myself. I've just heard stories from really successful men. It's the contrary over in America. You do well, people, you know, pump you up. Over here, you do well. People want to see you fail.
They want to chop you down at the knees, for sure. I think that's a cultural thing. I don't know where it comes from, but I definitely, like, I've been competing in the US.
Convicts, potentially.
Yeah.
Way back in the day.
Everyone's trying to fuck each other over all the time. Who knows, man? But I think that's like a funny thing that you can, even like looking back at school and shit like that, like when certain, you know, guys would make Australian, you know, representative teams for rugby union and shit like that, everyone would give them a fucking hard time.
When I got into Queensland 16,
yeah.
Everyone thought, you don't deserve it. Who are you? You think you're top shit. But at the time, it was a goal. And, you know, it was a great experience. And then you got it in year 12 and you went through and you probably got the same flack when we would have thought, that's doing pretty well.
Man, I'd got a different situation. I'm kind of like under the radar all the time. I think people overlook me all the time, whether it's wrestling shit, whether it's whatever. I think, man, I struggle a little bit in being a bit like overt with like self-promotion and stuff like that. I think that's something that I've really had to kind of put a little bit more effort into, because I'm happy just like chilling out, doing my shit. But if nobody knows about it, you don't get seen, you don't get, you know, put into these fights, or you don't get put into these competitions and stuff. So I think that's a little bit of a failure on my end, which I've had to kind of correct a little bit. But man, I also think like you don't want to succeed too quickly, too early, because like fast money comes like kind of like slow problems type thing. And like a lot of people, you know, whether they're rappers or football players or guys that do really well with crypto, like you were talking before, they get like this, you know, huge pump on a coin or whatever they call it, and then bang, they fucking made $80 million. And then what they do with that 80 million, they don't know how to deal with that success. Does that make sense? Whereas the path that you're talking about is like, man, it's a difficult path. You know what I mean? You're taking the difficult path. You're forging skills along the way. Kind of like what you're talking about, building networks and stuff, but you also learn how to deal with people. You also learn how to communicate and talk to people and maintain relationships. And these are all skills. And I talk about this stuff on all the podcasts too. It's like everything's a skill.
Well, what's that saying to Anton? You don't eat the fruit the same day you plant the seed. Isn't that so true?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we often have that initial conversation with someone.
Yeah.
I see other people in my field think, great, I'm going to get paid in this time. I don't ever think of that.
Yeah.
I have so many conversations every day with different people. The phone doesn't stop, and I don't stop calling people. So it's constant, right? Because if I'm throwing up lots of balls in the air and I'm juggling 20 balls, well, I currently have 27 listings for sale, right?
Yeah.
That's 27 listings up in the air. One or two of them fall off. Big deal. I know I put everything into them because we just go hard at every single listing, always calling buyers, always doing our job. One of them falls off, it's not the end of the world.
No.
But, you know, we're always making, you know, planting seeds. So we don't get paid on that day, but we might get paid in 90 days or 10 years' time.
Yeah.
And there's this one property I've got for sale at the moment. I remember calling him 5 years ago for his listing. He didn't want to know me.
Yeah.
He went with the top agent in the area, and it was the premier home, trophy home in the area, and I was gutted. But then he sold it and built another one. And I thought, no worries, I'm going to give him a call. Never took my calls. And when he didn't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
But again, didn't burn the bridge, planted another seed.
Yeah.
Third home came up, a $5 million home in Cooperoo.
Yeah.
Didn't even get a look in. I thought, bugger. But I always stayed in touch with him.
Yeah.
Always checked in, gave him value where I could.
Yeah.
And then this home has just come up. And I thought, highly unlikely I'll get it, but I'll call him.
Yeah.
Called him. He wanted to meet me. Very high net worth individual. I finally got in the door. I met him and his wife. And when you meet wealthy people, they just got an aura about them. Hey, they're very different. But he was very down to earth as well at the same time. Director of this successful building company. And toured the home, thought, I gave it everything I got, said that he's interviewing the other agent afterwards. But again, this is 5 years worth of work, right?
Yeah.
And then I thought, stuff it. I'm going to get him a $230 bottle of basket press Shiraz. It's my favourite drop I've ever drunk. I'm going to drive to the bottle-o, get my colleague Nico to drop it off at his door late at night to say thank you for your time. And we did. A month went by. He calls for 10 minutes. He's saying, mate, look, you're a nice guy and all, but it's been a really hard decision. And right, for 10 minutes, he didn't get to the point. And then he says, you've got the job. Congratulations. We're looking forward to working with you. And at that time, I remember I was on my deck at home. It was like 6 p.m. on a Friday night. And Michaela was inside. And I was like... But then I'm also like, no worries, Matt. I'm really looking forward to working with you in return. I'll send through the paperwork. But that was 5 or 6 years
of work,
not eating the fruit, but planting the seed, watering the seed. And we got to the point, which people don't talk about in this industry. They just say, oh, agent, quick, calm and out. Hell no, not in my business model.
I think people in general don't understand the realities of the world, though. This is like a part of the issue because they've not actually done it. People always see, like you said, the fruits of all the labor, but they don't actually see the labor. They don't see you building that up for 5 years. They don't see, like even with wrestling stuff, oh man, you have such a fun life. You just, hang out and train and shit. No, man, it's difficult, dude. You're bashing your body all the time.
Under a lot of pressure.
Under a lot of pressure, a lot of injuries.
Recovery.
Yeah, like, man, I've had so many injuries, you know what I mean? I've had countless surgeries and knee injuries and ankle injuries and this injury and that injury and 6 months off and then come back and then 2 years of training and then another 6 months off from another knee reconstruction or whatever. Like everything it's all building and like you're saying, you don't get to consume the fruit like on day one. And I think that's a real problem for people. Like I noticed this in training stuff. Like you might notice it with people doing listings or how they communicate with buyers or whatever. Or, 90% of the people that do real estate might never call that guy the second time. You called him 5, 6, 7 times over 5 years to finally get the goal.
Never burn the bridge. Could have easily said, nah, bugger you then, this is all too hard, good luck with him.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Never burn a bridge in this game because it'll always come back to you. Good karma always does. It looks after people.
I think that's a good thing to just have in life, though. This might be like more of a human psychology thing, but why are people so short with that type of stuff now? Is it just the society now?
Look at society.
Instagram society? Like
instant gratification. Everything's instantaneous. Uber Eats, Tinders, everything. All these little apps, right?
Yeah.
We expect results immediately.
Yeah.
And how disappointing it would be, first day of real estate, to call someone who says, mate, who are you?
Yeah.
Where are you calling from? Can you stop calling me? Bang, hung up.
Yeah.
That was my first call in real estate.
Yeah.
In fact, my first day in real estate was I'm online making calls, realestate.com up on my screen because I'm calling around just listers, just solds. My auntie's home in my core area comes up for sale with someone else. Wasn't that a reality check for me?
Yeah.
And that has driven me to this day because I'm so hungry. I'm like, wow, not even my family at the time would support me, which no disrespect at all. I mean, I was not the right agent at the right time. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I just thought so differently at the time. I was a young boy and now I feel like I'm a seasoned vet, but I'm only young. So my mindset is I'm still learning every day, but I've also a seasoned veteran in dealing with rejection, dealing with sales objections and stuff like that.
Yeah, you did the work, so that it builds confidence. You know what I mean? Like
it's just like you in wrestling. There's seriously so many similarities in our game.
Absolutely, and this is the kind of thing that I always try to kind of get to is like the deep kind of mental kind of attitude, because like I think through the mastery of anything, you learn the same things in life. It might be real estate, it might be wrestling, it might be, doing OnlyFans, it might be managing this, it might be whatever, you know what I'm saying? I know it's funny, but like everything is a skill, everything
I've
is
seen this lady actually on OnlyFans. Top right if you
Yeah, that's right.
Good looking lady.
That's where I got it from. So I think that's just an interesting point. Now, something else too though is I think you always need help. Like you always need mentorship, you always need help, you always need a team of people around you to actually build. Everyone lifts each other and builds each other up. And I've talked about this kind of stuff too before. It's too difficult to do shit on your own, man. You like, I know the work comes from you, but you like, you know what I mean? You're liaising with other people, you're interacting with them, you're learning how to benefit them so they benefit you. And this is something you talked about too with this seller. Is like you always wanted to bring them value. And I think this is something that's really important in all areas of life. I think too many people come to situations looking at what are you going to do for me? What are other people going to do for me? And I think that's not the right way to look at things. Does that make sense? Like what kind of value can you give to other people? Because when you give value to other people, it's returned in some way. It might take 5 years for it to be returned, but it will return at some point in time. Does that make sense?
It does. And what you said before, though, we can't do everything. We need to maybe consider outsourcing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I am today without the team around me.
Yeah.
And I've got Julie, who is like my general manager, right? She's comes on listings with me. She meets all my sellers. She organises cookies. She organises all the branding, right?
Yeah.
Julie. She does everything. And then you got Nico too. So Nico does all the buyer work and he often will bring on a seller as well. Then I got Igor, who's a hustler, and he just makes phone calls all day and goes out on the streets and drops letters. And this team unit makes me look good. And I'm very grateful to have good people under me who assist me. And you know what? Not even under, parallel with me is how it needs to be framed, because if I'm benefiting their profile, they win as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why Jules comes on or Nico comes on, and eventually Igor will come on stuff if he brings stuff on. So everything's set up so that we all win. If they win, I'm winning.
Yeah.
That's how I see bosses in other agencies doing things very differently, where it's all about them. It's not about the others.
Yeah.
That'll only get you so far.
Right.
So
or
how have you found that?
it'll only last for a certain period of time. It's just a very like mature kind of mindset and stuff, like of leadership. So this is like the thing you're talking about is understanding how to have lead a team or just leadership in general. Like where did you come to the realization of these kind of skills where like other people are necessary and it's important to allow them to flourish, but you also have to find like a symbiotic relationship between each person and partner and people involved inside the situation. It's no different than a romantic relationship, honestly. Like, there has to be a certain level of compatibility, but there also has to be a certain level of leadership. Does that make sense?
It's tricky because humans are emotional beings, hey?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, you know, say Jill, you know, she's a mother with 2 kids. She's got so much other stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have kids. I'm all in on work, but, you know, she might come in and, you know, she might have had stuff go on, but she's still every day 100%. And I try to be 100%, and I'm sometimes 90, or I might be 80. And, you know, one of the boys might be 50, and then I might come in at 50, but she's always 100. Like, every day we're emotional beings, and there's stuff going on in our personal life. But when it's work, I could swear we all just turn it on. You know, on open days, when we're doing listing presentations, we're just on. And people love energy. People like dealing with us because we are high energy, but also straight shooters.
Yeah.
Because you can read through the BS as well.
Yeah.
So you got to be mindful of that. But I don't know, I just think that once you sort of drop ego out of it as well, there's lots going on, but people are emotional, cool, understand that. People are going to react differently to things. Humans are unpredictable.
Yeah.
But one thing that is common is everyone's got an ego.
Yeah.
Once that's managed, well, everything else is fine. Because the only thing that gets in the way in our business is ego. That's my client. That's my deal. That's me. That should be. If we would just pull that back a little bit, and we're all sort of winning, because if they're winning, I'm winning.
But do
smoothly.
you help them manage that, or are they advanced enough in their own kind of?
They're very advanced.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you just lucky that you fell into this good team, or you selecting them specifically?
Hand picked, but at the same time, the universe aligned us as well. It wasn't like Julie applied for a Seek and Nico applied for a Seek, and no, I don't do Seek. I don't even know what Seek. I've never applied for a job on Seek. This business is very personable, you know, relationship, network, something we've, you know, checked in on a couple of times, but used to call auctions. Julie used to be an agent at one of the firms I called auctions for. She wanted to go a little bit further. I needed an associate at the time. Yeah. We thought we were going to hire her so she could go out on her own, but I thought, hang on, she's so good, I'd like to work with her. Yeah. So that's how that worked. And then Nico came along because Julie knew Nico. And then Igor came along because he actually hustled me. And he'd always called me week in, week out. I'm like, man, you're relentless and I want that in my business. Let's just hire you. Yeah. Because you're annoying me too. Because you keep calling me. Let's just make this happen.
Yeah, fair enough. No, man, that's interesting. I just think it's like, it's such a difficult thing like you're talking about, because managing human beings is, like, again, like I said, the most difficult thing on the planet, in my opinion. I think, like I said, it's completely unpredictable. It's so difficult to get a gauge on. Of course, it's a skill and you can learn how to do it better as you go. But this is something else that I always like talking about on here, because I think, like, the most important relationships you're going to have in life are people you build companionship with. And it doesn't have to be romantically, but for the most part and for most people, that's kind of where it starts. How, like, in your opinion, whether it's like the, you know, society or the Instagram culture or whatever, even with like the people that are buying and stuff, is there a bigger demographic of other individuals buying, or are you selling to a particular demographic of people? Because, you know, I talk about this stuff a lot, about relationships and about men and women and that type of thing, and it's seemingly like less and less common in the West, in Australia, in New Zealand, in America and stuff like that. People are really struggling to put their emotions aside in the Western world and figure out how to get along in romantic relationships, in business scenarios, in personal situations. There's such a quick turnover of friendships and relationships and all that type of thing. And so it's kind of like a two-part question. The first one is like, do you notice that in the people that are actually buying homes? And the second thing is what do you think that, what's the reason for that? Or do you think that is even happening?
I think we do have a bit of a throw the towel in problem in the Western world. Things get hard, we throw the towel in, or we throw our toys out of the cot, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all too hard. There's going to be something else better around the corner. I disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree.
I think that, if I've got a okay working relationship, let's work through that. Yeah. If it's really negative, of course, we'll make changes. But, even in a romantic side of things, my relationship with Michaela, I think, nothing's ever perfect, right? But I think that she's someone that I absolutely love and I want to make it work. And even if there's a little argument, right? Everyone has arguments. Let's just try and take ego out of it and try and see it from maybe their perspective. And put everything on the table and just talk it through. Not just go, it's all too hard next. Because I think that's where some people have gone wrong. Maybe in our younger gen, I think we sort of snuck in. We're okay, 27 upwards. But I think I'm really concerned for some of the younger, even those coming through high school now, to see what the future sort of holds there in terms of the length of relationship on average and also the divorce rates, in 2040 versus 2022. It could get very, very different. Things could really shift. But in terms of on a property side of things, of course, properties will transact generally because of death, divorce or debt, right? That's the three reasons someone may sell. Of course, you've got upsizing and downsizing, but let's look at divorce. That divorce rate's really coming up a lot. So I'm seeing more homes turn over as a result of 1 in 2 marriages failing. Hey,
1 in 2?
Crazy.
No. Marriages failing, 7 out of 10.
It's now 70%.
Yeah. It's about that. 65, 70% of marriages fail.
I'd like to be in that top 30%. Well, I don't even want to get married.
Well, the funny thing is there's like quantifiable data to so earnings, for example, like earnings massively decreases the amount of statistically the rate of divorce. For example, I think this is an American study, but once people hit an annual income, or a guy hits an annual income of about $250,000 a year, the divorce rate drops to about 20%. So this is where I talk to people about these types of things sometimes in general conversation. People start getting really heated and upset about it because again we're emotional, and sometimes when you give people hard data, it's not completely provable. You know what I'm saying? But all you can go by is data. You can't because you can't make a study where you literally talk to every human being on the planet and decide, all right, well, this is the reality. And times change. In 20 years, it might be different, right? But for the most part, men and women operate in certain ways psychologically, which is biological. It's evolutionary. You can't change your operating system. You can do your best to be as great a human being as possible, but there's quantifiable things that actually happen in the world that a lot of people don't like around relationships, which is really interesting. And one of them is a financial marker. So they also did another study again in the US where they had women, 1,000 women or whatever, go and look at pictures of guys or meet guys in public or whatever, and then they picked the guys that were most attractive. And you know how you said certain people have a certain aura about them? Well, the men that were chosen, the men that had the aura or whatever, or the vibe, which is one of the most common terms, they have such a nice vibe, whatever, right? They all earned roughly 56% more than the females that they were choosing them. So there's real tangible shit that you can work on to ensure that relationships last. Now, that doesn't mean it will last. Does that make sense?
Because you can be a wanker and be rich.
Yeah,
you
correct.
can also be humble and have a comfortable lifestyle and make it work because you've got balance. Because I don't want to be burning the candle at both ends. I've sort of done that once or twice where I'm working so hard and then I'm socializing so hard and then I just get sick. Right? Immune system goes. So it's all about balance. Hey, and when you look at that on a marriage and having children side of things,
of course.
You want to be there, but also working.
To provide present, for the situation.
But be a provider.
Correct. And the thing is I think there's been a monumental shift when it comes to the West and the marriage and divorce rate and all this type of stuff. There's been a monumental shift in the way men and women interact in relationships from what it looks like. And I travel a lot, so I see it all the time. I was in Abu Dhabi, 6 weeks ago, a month ago, and like you're saying, people just fucking get along. And the difference is they have to there. And this is something that I've talked about with people, over a meal or whatever. The biggest difference is what's actually possible. Here, and it's going to change soon as interest rates are increasing and stuff too, you're going to have to start to get along with people to get by financially. No longer can you be, an Instagram thotty you know what I mean? Hanging out on doing whatever, OnlyFans, making money off Instagram, just working 2 days a week, whatever, have a place in New Farm, go to all the fanciest restaurants every week and da-da-da, right? Because if you can if someone else finances it for you, which does happen a lot of the time, right? But if you're going to finance your own stuff, those lifestyles are going to have to change. Or you're going to need someone else to finance it for you. Whereas in, third world countries and stuff like that, people are happy to kind of fall into more traditional gender scenarios because, most people want to have kids and, all right, she's going to cut back on work a little bit and he's going to work a little bit more, and then the roles are like that and they get along and they interact and it all works out. Whereas here, it's like it's a competitive, aggressive interaction a lot of the time. Where, well, I want to work full time and we have to clean both the same amount, and you did one wipe, so I got to do one wipe of the table, and you got to cook one meal, I got to cook one meal. But then people don't look into the finances, or they want to split everything down the middle, and it's just too forced. I think people, if they were just a little more natural with how things kind of fell into place.
Ego is at the center of everything we've discussed.
Yeah, but man, I think the problem with this is like people don't understand the reality. It's kind of like how you're talking, like, all right, if somebody wants to follow your pathway and they want all the accolades and all the stuff that you've done, there's a whole fucking lot of work they have to do to get there. There's 20 years of work. There's 15 years of work, all right, to get to that point. All right, whether it's me with jiu-jitsu, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Dude, this took fucking 15 years to get here. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen overnight. And
learning some of those techniques, the one that went viral recently would have taken you so long to learn. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
What was that? Can we just touch on that?
It's an accumulation
that went
stuff.
Viral. The amount of people that reshared that.
Yeah.
Every day there was 100. And how many views did that one video get?
I don't know.
500,000 views.
Yeah, something like that. So I think whenever you do anything that's like very quick.
And your followers just went up. Immediately.
Yeah, a little bit. But like, and that's the crazy thing about social media, you know what I mean? Like, and it's such a strong marketing tool and stuff like that. But I think just like to do with the thing that you're talking about is like a flying armbar position where, got a submission very quickly. And I think just whenever you do anything that's very quick and explosive, regardless of whether people understand what it is, when people see things that are explosive, quick, powerful, there's a big exertion of force and stuff. It's interesting for people. That's why knockouts are so cool in MMA or boxing. That's why car crashes in NASCAR pull everyone in. You know what I mean? We talked about this, I think, with Paul last time he was here. Just going back a little bit, though, to this whole relationship dynamic thing. About, like, people changing over quickly and divorce rates and all this stuff, like, I do think it is an ego thing. I do think it is people being misled by what's actually common in society now. And I think the biggest issue is people almost being lied to because they're being told to focus on these things and do this and do that and have fun and do all this shit. And then when you hit 35 as a chick, now go and settle down. And the problem is the reality of what actually happens from behaviors is not clear in people's mind. Just like if I hang out for 40 years, play video games, watch porn, smoke dope, and think that I deserve an amazing life, I'm fucking delusional. Does that make sense? And I think a lot of people are delusional around relationship. Like there's a lot of guys that don't work very hard and expect their partner to do things for them, be very supportive and cook and clean and help them and get along with each other and all that type of thing. And on the other side, there's the same thing with women. They, go out, have a massive issue with alcohol, they have attention issues, they always need to be on Instagram and be validated by all these things. They have a lot of, I would say a lot of people have psychological issues, borderline personality disorder level issues, and they expect to have, a top level relationship or a top level,
comfortable relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, in
fact, it's probably polarizing. It's not attracting that sort of relationship
that they want, correct. And I think this is an interesting point to make. I know you've got to kind of head off soon.
I've got 2 minutes, Tom.
Yeah, so we'll kind of like finish it off here, but like
we could always do a part 2 on the south side of Brisbane.
We can definitely do a part 2. I don't know if I can transport all this stuff down there, but we can definitely go there.
Listen, if this goes viral, we'll take it somewhere else.
Correct, man. We'll do it in the park. We'll do it whatever, wherever you want, man. We'll do it at a listing
but
in front of everyone.
But then you won't have steaks provided for me prior.
No, I can. I'll bring a little portable barbecue.
Oh, it's pretty special. We got to touch on
that. Remember, add value. Add value. That's what it is. Next time we'll have a topless waitress. She'll be cooking the steaks.
Actually, no, we won't, because I've got a girlfriend at home who might be listening to this.
I'll have a topless waitress.
Off camera, though.
A male topless waitress.
Actually, and again, that probably won't get me there. But just too funny.
Yeah. All right, Pat. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Tom.
Really appreciate
good to see you.
Thank you so much for the gift.
Hope your listeners got some value.
Team Ivey. No, definitely. I think people don't understand. It's not as difficult as people say. There's a lot of propaganda and bullshit out there, whether it's about how difficult the economy is and how difficult.
Video the other day. Do the work.
Yeah, it's man. Do the fucking work.
Relative in my
So if you want to learn about this type of shit, hit Pat Ivey up on Instagram. If you need to learn and you want to learn about weightlifting and wrestling, you talk to people that do it, that have gone and done it. That's what life is, man. And yeah, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Lots of value. All right, we'll definitely have to do a part 2. It's too short.
Sounds good to me.
Next time we'll get more into the deep stuff.
I look forward to it.
All right, guys.